Hey teachers! In my last video, I shared an amazing free online tool called Wheel of Names with you, which is essentially a virtual spinner. Now, I love virtual spinners because they have endless possibilities for the classroom and for teaching every single subject. So in this video, I want to share 10 of my favorite games and activities you can play with Wheel of Names or any other virtual spinner. Now, before we dive into the content, I just want to take a moment to ask you to please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We create all of the content here on this channel for free, and by taking a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, it enables us to keep producing free content for you and for other teachers around the globe. So now let's get into virtual spinners. Just a heads up, if you are looking for a tutorial on how to use Wheel of Names, we covered that in the last video, so I'll link it down in the description below, but if you check out that video, that will show you how to actually use and customize Wheel of Names. And I also just want to let you know that while I'm going to specifically be talking about Wheel of Names and the examples that you see in this video will be Wheel of Names, you can do any of these games and activities with any type of virtual spinner, including Flippity or any of the other ones that exist out there. So let's go ahead and get into my top 10 list.
This is where the fun begins.
First, I want to talk about how to use Wheel of Names for fun and get to know you activities in your classroom. We'll talk about ways you can use it to teach the different content areas in just a moment. But the very first activity I have for you is the most obvious one. This is the one that most teachers think of when they think of a virtual spinner. And that is using Wheel of Names or any virtual spinner as a random name picker so that you can randomly call on students. Using a virtual spinner in this way, it helps create equity in the classroom and it helps different students to share and hear ideas. My second suggestion for you is to take the random name picker a step further and engage all of your students in all of your learning settings at the same time. And this one is specifically for hybrid teachers. So what I mean by all of this is that you can create spinners so that way you can engage your in-person and your virtual learners at exactly the same time. Now, unfortunately, Wheel of Names will not allow you to pull two spinners up and have them side by side at the same time, but there is an easy workaround for this. What you're going to do is you're going to create a spinner with your in-person learners and another spinner with your virtual learners, and you're going to open each of those spinners in a different tab. Now, when you're teaching, you'll have both of those open and you're going to go back and forth between the in-person and the virtual. So if you just called on an in-person student, then you need to call on a virtual student next. You could also spin both of the spinners at the same time and call on an in-person and a virtual student at exactly the same time. All of this is a great way to ensure that you are engaging students in both settings at the same time. I know a lot of times with hybrid teaching, it can get easy to focus on one group of students and then the other group of students isn't getting as much attention, but this is a quick and easy way to make sure everybody's on the same page and make sure that you are focusing on both groups of students. Number 3, you can use Wheel of Names after an extended break or after the summer holiday for get to know you games and activities.
Hi everyone, I'm Olaf, and I like warm hugs.
And doing this is so simple and there's a lot of different ways you can implement it. So basically, you're gonna create a wheel with a whole bunch of get to know you questions. Easy things like what did you do on summer vacation? What is your favorite color? What sports do you play? Do you have siblings? Do you have pets? Things like that. You'll spin the spinner and it will pick one of the questions, and then there's a couple of different ways that you can have students respond. They can write their responses on a whiteboard and everybody hold them up at the same time. You could randomly call on a few students to share their responses. Or if you want a movement activity, you could have students get up and move about the room and ask that question to 3 other students. So this is a great way to get them talking and interacting and learning about each other. The last fun activity activity that I want to share before we get into how to use Wheel of Names for teaching the different content areas is a virtual brain breaks. So you can use Wheel of Names to help especially your online students get up and moving throughout the day, exercising their bodies and their minds. And there's a couple of different ways that you could do this. You could create 2 different spinners and have them in different tabs like we talked about a few minutes ago, and you could have one spinner with different exercises such as jumping jacks, squats, running in place, and then another spinner with numbers, and then you could spin each of them to do an exercise and then the number of each exercise that they would do, so maybe 5 jumping jacks. Another thing that you could do that's fun is you can incorporate dice into this. So you could spin your virtual spinner, have it select an exercise, and then roll a virtual die that tells students how many of that exercise that they will do. Now, if you're unfamiliar with virtual dice, we have a whole nother video here on this channel where I share a couple different ways that you can use virtual dice and a couple different options for using virtual dice. So I've linked that video below down in the description if you want to check it out. Now, let's talk about how you can use Wheel of Names or any other virtual spinner for teaching math.
Math is math.
Okay,
Math
Dad.
is math.
I'll just wait for Mom to get back.
What?
I love using Wheel of Names for probability games. You could put things like colors, numbers, you can even use images and put heads and tails of coins onto a spinner, and you can use this for all kinds of activities where students are testing the probability of different outcomes. When it comes to teaching math, there are infinite number games that you can play with a virtual spinner. A few of the different options that you could use include spinning a number and then having students come up with as many facts as possible that equal that number, and you can incorporate addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Another option would be to spin several different numbers and have students come up with as many different problems as possible using those numbers. You can also incorporate fractions into this. You could spin the spinner twice and have it use the numbers as a numerator and a denominator. You can create multiple fractions then and have students compare, add, subtract, and multiply fractions. There's literally endless possibilities. And one last option would be to create a spinner with basic facts for addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. And this can be another fun fact practice game. I know we're always looking for ways for students to practice those basic math facts. Now, let's talk about some ways that you can use Wheel of Names or any virtual spinner to teach ELA. I love using Wheel of Names to produce guided reading questions. So whether I am working with my entire class on a novel, or I am working on a story or a novel in my guided reading groups, I can use a virtual spinner to come up with the questions that students discuss with each other. So this could include questions like, how does the character change from the beginning to the end of the story? What is the setting of the story? What do you think the main idea of the story is? Any of those guided reading questions that incorporate reading skills can work really well with a virtual spinner. Just as you can use Wheel of Names to select your guided reading questions, you can also use Wheel of Names to select your daily writing prompts. So I have a resource that includes over 140 writing prompts for the entire school year. I created all of these writing prompts one summer because I really struggle to come up with engaging, creative writing prompts throughout the school year when there's a lot of other things going on. So I created this over the summer, and then it gave me all of my writing prompts for the year, and I've linked this product down in the description if you're interested in checking it out. But the reason I shared that with you is because what I did then later on was I took many of the writing prompts that I had created and I moved them into a virtual spinner. And then each day we were able to spin the spinner and randomly select a writing prompt. And the reason why it's fun to put writing prompts, to put guided reading questions into a spinner is because that spinner adds a little bit of excitement for the students. It's not just boring, here, this is what we're gonna do for today. It adds a little bit of mystery, it adds a little bit of excitement for them. Do your students struggle with descriptive writing?
Sorry, I was a little vague on the details.
I cannot tell you how many times I have told students to say, let's come up with some more creative words besides just nice or mean or kind. If this is something your students also struggle with, think about using Wheel of Names for a descriptive writing activity. To do this, add pictures to your wheel instead of text. If you're working in Wheel of Names, you can do this by clicking the Add Image icon above the box where you would normally type text in, and you can upload images from your computer. I especially like using images of scenery and food, as these are easy things for students to describe. So with this, you're gonna spin the wheel and an image is going to appear. And you can do a couple different things with this. You could have students write a list of adjectives to describe the picture that they see, or you could have them write a short descriptive paragraph. But either way, this is a great way to get those creative juices flowing and get your students thinking about new descriptive words. All right, we've made it to the 10th and final Wheel of Names game here on this list, and this is an activity that you could use with social studies or science or really any subject that you teach, and that is a fun facts game. And to do this, you're gonna start by adding words or statements, but you're going to add a bunch of things to your wheel that have to do with a specific topic. You can even add pictures as well, but everything needs to come back to that specific topic. You can see here that I have created a wheel with people, places, and events related to the Revolutionary War. So what I am going to do is I'm going to spin this spinner, and it's going to spin a person, place, or event related to the Revolutionary War. Then I'm going to have all of the students in my class write down something that they know, a fact that they know about that person, place, or event. They can write it on a piece of paper or a whiteboard. Then once everybody's written something down, I am going to call on all of the students to share what they wrote. And as they're sharing those things, I'm gonna be creating a class list. And we're gonna see how many facts can the class come up with. So if I spun George Washington and students are sharing facts about George Washington, a student may call out a fact about him. I'm gonna write it down. Now, if any other students wrote the same fact down, they're not gonna share those. But then I'm gonna have other students share other facts that they wrote, and I'm gonna keep adding to the list, and we're gonna see how many facts we can come up with about George Washington. So there you have it. That is 10 fun games that you can play with your students using Wheel of Names or any other virtual spinner. The great thing about most of these games and activities is they work no matter what type of teacher you are. If you're in person, online, or hybrid, you can use a virtual spinner in your instruction. But I'd also love to hear from you. Do you have any fun games or activities that you like to play using a virtual spinner? Go ahead and leave a comment below. Let us know. And then, like I said at the beginning of this video, if you could take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps us to grow and it helps us to continue producing more free content. So until next time, happy teaching.